Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to My Spiritual GPS. This is your host, Vivian S. D. Guzman, and people call me the human MRI and the #1 money magnet activator. So today I am super excited because we have special guests who are Asian women who boss up. And some of our guests today will share with us their story on how life responds to them when they showed up in life. So what is my spiritual GPS? And you're probably thinking, that navigator in your car, which it is. If you look at it, there's some messes that we have in life. And sometimes the mess that we have point us to the direction of what really our soul purpose is, what is our life path. And, as we grow up, we figure everything out. And then eventually when we surrender, after all these discovery processes and awakening processes, we finally wake up and say, okay, I need to be doing something else in my life. And sometimes the difficulties that we go through allow us to actually be in the flow. Because if we never experience those difficult times, we would never know how to create a shortcut about that, right? We would never know what is the easier path to get where we are now to be in the flow. So I'm going to be introducing some amazing women today, some Asian women who actually bossed up in their life and what they had to go through, because maybe you can relate to one of them, okay? And these are very powerful, beautiful women that showed up and said, I would like something else in my life. So we're going to get started with Miss Mary D. Hi, Miss Mary. How are you?
I am fantastic.
So
thanks for having me
here. You are an international speaker, business consultant, and hope catalyst. So tell us a little bit about what that means.
Absolutely. What is a hope catalyst? Well, what I like to say is I'm a firm believer that we all have a message inside of us. And my message is definitely a message of hope. It's a message of a little bit of faith, a little bit of fun, a little bit of support, and all of that leads to a message of hope. And I believe, especially in a day like this, in a time like this, that hope is what people need and that it's what helps people get through the day and it gives them a reason to move forward.
Wow. That is amazing. So thank you for being here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce every single lady first on the screen, and then we're going to have a little chit chat, because I'm sure a lot of people want to hear about what is that hope? Like, what if they're so down in the dumps and they just need someone to give them a message that'll just take them from where they are to where they want to be, right? All right. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to bring up Miss Annie Hardock. Miss Annie, you're a children's virtual education expert, author, and speaker. Wow, I love that. So are there particular grades of children that you actually mentor, or
Yes, for children. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, I actually help children ages 4 to 12 years old in helping them to engage and become eager learners, and especially training them in what we call mental math. It's using visualization technique to train them and use their mind to do calculations.
Wow. Yeah, we need that, right? We need that for business, like for numbers and things like that. So yes, you play a very important role in children's lives. Thank you so much. So I'm going to get back with you. Stay tuned. All right. Now I'm going to introduce Lisa Milan. Lisa, she is the CEO and executive producer of Masterpiece, which is a marketing and event agency. So Lisa, tell us how you got involved in this project, Asian Women Who Boss Up. Like, how did you go from marketing and well, I guess you're doing marketing. This is part of it, right?
Yeah, I help plan events, and so I was introduced to Tam, who is hosting the Women Who Boss Up Summit, which is actually after, once we launch this book, the next part would be the summit. And so I'm actually organizing and helping Tam with the Women Who Boss Up Summit. And I do plan events for different clients and businesses.
Okay, and I know you play a very important role in making this happen. So, how hard is it actually to launch a book or create events? Can you give us a little idea of what is that? Not my
Oh,
world, obviously. Even if I've had done events, I'm sure your expertise has a role here. Like, how big a scope is this?
Oh, it's a lot of work. You got to remember that for our book, for the Asian Woman Who Boss Up, there's about 18 authors, right? And so with marketing comes social media. There's email, the copy, email marketing. So Tam is handling the part with the book, but on my end, it's planning the summit and planning the event. So it's really making sure that all the speakers, all the videos are completed in time. There's a lot of logistics that are done. There's timelines and deadlines that we need to meet, and also just pretty much planning the whole thing. It's a full production.
Wow. How long did it take for you to plan like a launch of this particular book? Because I think we're like, are we the third or the fourth launch? Because it's a
This is the
series of
third one.
books, right?
Yeah, this is the third one.
The third one.
So
Okay.
yeah. So I know that the summit that I did, we launched the first one that was last year, sometime in November, and then the second one was January, and then this one is coming up in March. So
Ah,
there's about like 2 months
2 months.
preparation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we have very powerful women here. So, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And made everything, I'm sure, easier when everybody's cooperating, right? It just always
Yeah.
works. All
Yeah.
right. And then last but not least, we have Miss Lucy Liu. She is the host of the Lucy Liu Show. Hi, Miss Lucy. Thank you for being
Hello,
here.
everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, Vivian. So good to see you. We're celebrating today as our book hits #1 on Amazon. It's so exciting.
Okay, wait.
Yay!
Let me bring everybody in here because you guys are all #1 best-selling authors, not just authors here nationally, but also internationally. I was looking at Facebook and I'm like, wow, look at these women rocking it. I was actually with Sheena Yap Chen this morning and Clubhouse, and we were like, she was hosting a little room. It's like audio only, right? And we were just sharing our stories and all this good stuff and fun stuff. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here. Awesome. So I wanted to share. Please share with the audience. The title of our show today is "Life Responds to You When You Show Up." Now, obviously, we don't just like show up from yesterday. Let's say we're having a bad day and suddenly we're just showing up today. Well, that sounds like that sometimes. But there was a journey that we took somehow. Like I myself had some stroke, kind of TIA symptoms. You know how one side of your body got kind of slightly paralyzed, and I'm like, oh, I think I need to do something else in my life. So that was my wake up call right after my fourth kid. And then everything evolved from there, right? So that was just a portion of the story, but then the goal is to never give up because I realize I can't like stay in the dumps. It's like I need to do something with my life so that I can help other people with their lives. So I want you ladies to share your story of what was the struggle before you even got here. What was your wake up call in your life? So let's start with Lucy. Yeah, Lucy, it's your turn.
Yay. So obviously my name is Lucy Liu. So that was actually my biggest hindrance throughout my whole life. I do live in Los Angeles. So being so close to Hollywood, actually in middle school, I signed up with a casting agency and I went to audition after audition for commercials, and every single time I went to audition, the casting director would like run out of their office with excitement, like, oh my gosh, Lucy Liu's on my list, right? And then they would be so apparently disappointed when they see me. They're like, oh, not the Lucy Liu, right?
Oh,
So I kind of grew up with this notion that I'm not the Lucy Liu and I will never be the Lucy Liu, or pretty much it made me feel like even though I was chasing all the shiny objects, even though I was a straight A student, even though I dropped myself out of high school with straight A's and went to UCLA 2 years ahead of my peers, even though I was, I looked like I was doing well on the outside, but I always had this limiting belief that I will never be anyone, that, you know,
Mm.
I'm not important, or basically you just do not see another Julia Roberts or Angelina Jolie in the world ever. Right. So that was one of my biggest
Wow.
hindrance as I grew up. And once I actually started owning my story, owning my
Right.
name, that's when I bossed up. And
Mm.
now I love my name. I absolutely
Yay.
love being Lucy Liu. It is my maiden name, so I kept it even though after I got married, to remind me that that is who I am, and it has nothing to do with really my name, but how I feel and how I show up and how I decide to live my life. It's all about my own choice. So I am a business and life coach, and because of what I preach to my clients, I've got to, if I talk the talk, I have to walk the walk. So
Yep.
that's why I'm constantly reflecting on myself, like what limiting beliefs do I break next? I love
Mm.
this game that I'm playing, right? Like, what fears do I still have left? Like, I'm breaking them one by one, and it's just so, so exciting. And that's the kind of life I want to live. And I want everyone to live that way, to live by life by design, but
Yep.
live life, by your own design.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that is very inspiring. Thank you. So let's see what Mary D was up to. What challenge did you have to go through, Mary D, to get you where you are today? Was there an aha moment or series of moments?
For sure, for sure. I decided, or maybe God decided, that I didn't need just one thing. I could maybe handle three or four at the same time. So I went through a lawsuit, losing a 6-figure and an 8-figure business. At the same time, I was getting diagnosed with breast cancer. At the same time, my dog of 14 years was dying. So my life was very much a old country song. And that whole situation made me pause. And there's two things, or two roads, I say, that I had a choice to make, right? There was a fork in the road for me. And one of them said, hide and let this be something that you take care of in the background and then reemerge. And then another voice said, no, share all the things, share all the feelings of shame, share all the feelings of defeat, share that this is hard, that life is not all roses, and it's not that beautiful Facebook version that we typically, see posted out there. And it was in that moment of saying, no, I'm going to own this instead of I'm going to hide from this, that I really was able to find my power, really invest in my faith, and really move forward in my life and say, no, all of these things that happen, they happen for us, not to us. And how do I take these lessons and let them make me stronger, better, and help me create more impact in the world? And that's exactly what those things did. I'm healed from cancer holistically.
Wow.
I had surgery, which is a testimony in itself. I've obviously rebuilt from losing those businesses. And because I've built businesses before and have had a lifetime of success, I'm not going to let that small moment in time where that challenge happened defeat me. I'm going to let it be a lesson, and I'm going to let it be a lesson that not only I benefit from, but everyone I work with benefits from.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I've treated a lot of cancer patients in the past. I was a holistic physical therapist before I even got into my human MRI and money magnet activation, right? And it's fascinating when you're mentioning that, because yesterday I was having our staff meeting, our weekly staff meeting, and my staff are looking at me and saying, when you said this, you lit up. And I remember I said, yeah, there was this client that, yeah, she had some cancer. They said stage 4 with 2 little kids. And she came to me at that time, and I did little magic of healing, whatever that is, right? Whatever I do for a living of clearing the energies. And within 3 months, her cancer was gone, right? Zero, stage zero. And then she couldn't say it to the doctor because, again, I say, don't say my name. I'm still in the hiding. Like, don't say anything because I don't want to be questioned. Because suddenly the MRI and all the different tests they're running are negative. And they're like, what happened to those spots that I saw over here, right? Like, it doesn't disappear in 3 months. Like, it just doesn't, right? But then, well, again, there's that transformation that happens when you believe in your cause that much. And she had two beautiful children that she wanted to live for them, right? Because who's going to be the mother of the kids? Nobody.
Right.
She has to show up. I think that determination, that strength, that willpower within us, it does transform so much. A lot of us here in the Asian community, we went through a lot. I mean, for us, it's kind of like, that's common. But then for other people, they're like, oh my God, you've been through that? Yeah, it's not so bad. You know, because you still come out alive on the other side when you decide you wanted to live your life with a purpose. It just changes everything around you. It changes you, and it changes the people around you and the people you surround yourself with. Thank you for sharing that. Wow, this is fun. Liza, so what was the struggle that you went through? I know you've been through a lot.
Yeah.
But was there like this defining moment that you're like, the heck with this? I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. Because you know how hard it is for us Asian women to shrink? It's kind of hard, actually. We try not to be seen sometimes, but then how does that feel, right? Have you guys felt that at times? You kind of hide like a little mouse. And then you're like, what am I doing? Let's just do something about this. So Lisa, can you share with them your struggles and how you decide to become this person now?
I've been dealing with it since I was 14, I would say, because of the different traumas that happened to me. But I would say one of the big ones was during the time where I had started my business and my company in 2013, where I was working really hard. The struggle that I had was that I was, building my company. And I was reinvesting on myself and putting back the money that I've earned. And then within that 3 years, the partner that I had at that time ended up wiping out my account. So everything that I've earned zeroed me out. I lost everything. And this is what pretty much had brought me to depression. And so for a whole year, I was angry. I was blaming myself. I didn't even know what I was doing. I would say that I was asleep. And it was up until I've attended one of Tony Robbins' event and I walked on fire was when that woke me up.
It's like it woke you up, right? It's so
and so
the house on fire.
Yeah, so going through that and having to like deal with, that challenge and that depression, this is, there are a lot of things that I had to do. I had to work on my personal development. And then during this time, I also had met my boyfriend now, who was my partner, who had to introduce me and actually even let me know that, hey, there's something going on with you that you need to work on yourself and you need to love yourself. And so from that, I also started I would say like working with many different coaches. I had different coaches, personal development, and then really making sure that I follow some of what I've learned. And from that, I would say that, healing, I would say, is important. From different coaches that I work with, including yourself, Vivian, there's healing, there is meditation. I would say taking time for yourself. For me, my favorite is celebrating. So every time that I accomplish something or I do something, I always like to celebrate, which I didn't used to do before. So I think a lot of that helps with that struggle that I had before. And then now, just making sure that I take the time to follow and do the things for myself, like, self-care.
Yeah, exactly. And the celebration piece, so Lisa learned that through human design as I'm teaching that, right? And it's so interesting, but think about it, right? Like if you Asians love to accomplish things, and I've interviewed a bunch of other Asian authors who are in the book that are, my gosh, they have like so many titles, like you can count it in your fingers. And I realized that too, even in myself. I was like, yeah, I'm certified in all these 8 different modalities. But then for you, it's just like, okay, you begin a study, you end the study, and then you apply it. You begin a study, you end the study, and then you apply it. I don't even think about what I'm doing. I just love to learn. So then 1 to 8, and then I look back. You know how you look back at how's everybody doing? Like my classmates in elementary school and in high school, right? And I'm like, but wait, I'm done with that. What are they doing? So the comparison can be such an evil companion, because you're trying to compare yourself with others. You really have to take care of how happy and satisfied are you, right, with yourself. And that's why I added the reward system even in what I'm doing, because I'm like, well, I've done 8 things, but how come the other people are just catching up on 1? And you know that in the Asian community, you guys have so many titles. I think we have somehow accumulated these titles thinking it would make us better. It does, but it really is more I think it's more a self-worth issue for most of us. And then when we finally mature and go, no, we don't really need all that title. We just have to show up as the powerful version of who we are. And then everything's just like extra, like gravy, so to speak, right? So we'll see how the educator is. So let me introduce. Go ahead, Annie. Share with us the struggles that you have to go through in order to even get to this status, right? To this stage in your life.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. For me, my whole life is spiritually guided. So every 8 years of my life, there's spiritual awakening. So I at least like 2 very important spiritual awakening that happened in my life that guided me to where I am today. And also I had a near-death experience back in 1989. So it is all these experiences that guide me through. So I don't even, like all I have to do is just say, what type of life do I want to live, right? So, and then with that vision, then I just get guided like to where I wanted, like be happy and the type of lifestyle that I wanted. So the latest one, actually, Awakening, was a few years ago that I published one of my poems that I had written. It was spiritually inspired, and it was in the book called Awakenings, Stories of Growth, Healing, and Magical Transformations. And through that, I was revisiting a poem that I was written like 20 years ago. And I thought, wow, that's the next stage of my life. And I thought, wow, that's what I implemented. And that's where I am today. And that's the all guided by all the spiritual inspired poems and music and songs that I had written 20 years ago. And they're coming back out. But I'm in the education, and I feel this is my calling. Believe me, let's say I have the physical location for 20 years, for 10 years for education learning center. But with the COVID, I think so. Maybe mute it. Can you mute the sound of the? They might help.
I think everyone's muted except you.
Oh, except me.
Microphone, yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry. So because of COVID, I actually, through the lockdown, that I pivoted online. So suddenly the opportunity show up that I can now deliver the program anywhere around the world. And that's the lifestyle I want to live, be able to travel. I didn't want to lock down like to just a physical location. That's why I'm saying I just know the type of life that for my next phase in my life. And I just get guided. And I participated in a 30-day miracle challenge last June, and all my dreams are starting to come true. I just planted the seeds, and now today I just thought, wow, the books go international bestseller.
There you go.
I
That's your
gotta
new
go
business
global.
card.
That it
Yeah.
comes true. Yes.
Yes, that's your new business card. All right. Now we're also going to welcome in our TV show today, Denise Michelle. Denise, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm great, thanks.
Yes,
I'm a little
so
tardy.
I know you just started with us, and introduce yourself to the audience because you are part of this beautiful book, Asian Women Who Boss Up. We were talking about struggles, like what really made you get to where you are today. Was there a particular struggle in your life that was like, because I know you're like the host of this bridgethelove.com. Is that like a movement or something? Can you share that with us?
I love that you just said that because that's the vision, is Bridge the Love is a movement. I am trademarked as the self-love alchemist. And it really started with me being born with a mental illness called borderline personality disorder. And I have spent my entire life researching and going in and healing and learning about love and what it takes for us to meet ourselves. And in turn, how do we heal ourselves and help other people along the way? That's what Bridge the Love is all about. And it's really a gift. I would say, you know, as hard as my life was, growing up and not understanding my emotions and having to live alone for a couple of decades, having to go through the deepest, darkest healing that you could even think of. But it helped me to embrace who I am. And, you know, I'm 41 now, and I wasn't supposed to make it to 30. So the fact that I'm here today and sharing my life's work in the world and being amongst this incredible group of women that I can't love on enough. It's just, I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. We love having you here. See, we're now going to call you the Love Alchemist because that's you, right? Okay, so now this is like for everyone. Is there anything in the panel, right? Because we're also going to have some people that are probably streaming later and then giving us like questions for you guys to answer. So for the audience that are watching, please make sure you type in the comments. You're probably on my Facebook page, Human MRI, and you can type in any questions that you'd like to ask these beautiful ladies. So a lot of times they only see women that are already successful, right? We're going out there, we look like we know what we're talking about, we know what we're doing. Because, you know, you don't talk about your wounds and all the things all the time that happened, how you even got here. But all of us have it. It's not like we don't come out. It's kind of like a baby. When you birth a baby, they don't come out running, right? they have to sit, they have to crawl, they have to fall a few times, and finally they figure out how to stand and then eventually walk. So in this walk of life, right, is there a specific advice or something you can share, a special nugget for these ladies? Because we've been through a lot, right? Asian women, I guess the difficulties and challenges that we go through, some people don't even experience what that is. Sometimes it's just they say, you know how your parents or your relatives say bad things about you, or they just criticize and comment negatively about what you're doing. Like, are you high? Are you really thinking straight? You're never going to amount to something. So sometimes those are the words, right? So anyone can share, what was the most difficult thing you have to overcome in your family? Let's start with that, because I think in the Asian community, it starts with the family. It's not even outside, but then sometimes the outside is reflected on what's going on. So anybody want to share what happened through your journey that really made you stronger and who you are now?
For sure. I can take that one, Vivian. this is such a good question, because I think that in the Asian community, when I think of it in my household, I grew up in a Thai household. My mom was a single mom for a few years, raising me before she remarried. And my mom, I know, was trying to instill strength and courage in me and bravery, because there were times where I was pretty much a latchkey kid for years, where I had to get myself up, take myself to school, and she may or may not have been able to pick me up because I had to, she had to work 2 jobs, and then she wouldn't get home until after midnight, and then I would wake up, spend a little time with her, go back to bed, and then we'd do it all again the next day. And I know that my mom overall was so encouraging and was definitely, again, doing the best she could at that time in her life, not really having any guidance to go by. But what I will say is there is certainly, I believe, a lot of taboo and shame around sex, around our image, what we look like. There's such a huge encouragement of making sure you look beautiful, right? Because you're going to have to capture a husband, and ideally by 20, you're married off and someone is taking care of you. That was definitely my mom's old school, like that's where she was going. And so there was always comments about, do I have lipstick on? I look like a homeless person if I don't wear blush. And, make sure you're dressed nice. Just because we're poor doesn't mean we have to dress badly. So there were all these things where, this is programming that you get as a child. And so you have to kind of find your way out of it. And then around topics like sex, I don't know that my mom ever sat down and really went through birds and the bees conversation with me. There was really no, even when I was getting married, there was no kind of preparation of like, hey, here are some things to expect. Or can we have an open conversation around something like sex and it not be this secretive thing where we don't talk about that? We only, talk about things that don't deal with real life. And so I think in those aspects of it, those are for sure things that I would say I grew up with that I had to really look at and break through and say, how do we bring these things to light? Because they're normal things. We should all be able to talk to our families, our children especially, about things like sex and preparing for marriage and preparing for relationships and preparing for the world, and how just because you may choose to be a little more hippie or choose to be a little more laid back, and that you don't feel like you need to wear a suit and tie everywhere, or that your hair needs to be perfect, or that your makeup needs to be on, like that's all okay. We're all individuals, and it's our inner beauty that really resonates our external beauty, and that's what really matters.
Wow, that's beautiful. It sounded like the Bridgerton that I was watching on Netflix when the lady married the husband. She didn't know how that works, right? It's like,
that's right.
how am I supposed to feel? Are you supposed to do certain, like it's not even discussed. And even the sex education in a lot of the schools right now, I'm thinking, I wonder what are they teaching the kids? Because I think that's why a lot of kids experiment, is because they don't have anyone. It's almost like it's something in the closet. It's like, don't say anything about that, right?
For sure. And if kids are looking at, unfortunately, pornography is a problem in younger age children, because they're out kind of looking, or their friends might have access, and so they show them, and that is a completely like non-realistic reality of what it is. And so when kids get a hold of that, they only know what they see, so they show up and they go, well, this is what it's supposed to be like, but it's
and then
not.
they don't feel like that, and I'm like, how come it doesn't feel and sound like that? Thank you for opening that up. Anybody else have a comment on that? Okay, Annie, go ahead.
Yes, just carry on the conversation. My experience with in my family was about my father, who was 50 years older than me. So it's very traditional Chinese culture. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. So when I was little, when I hear how my dad commenting about white people, in Hong Kong, there are and in today's world, that's racist comments, right? But that gave me more curiosity about the other culture. So before I came to Canada for higher education, my dad saying, "Don't you dare ever date non-Chinese," right?
Oh, wow.
And of course I did. And
You know, the mind doesn't hear the word don't. I tell that to my clients. Don't even say that. Just whatever you say, the don't, like, it erases everything. So if you want your kids to do something else, you have to tell what you really want instead of saying don't do that, because they will
yes,
definitely do it. That's just
yes,
how the mind works.
that's what I did, and
Yeah.
I was afraid to tell him. So it's like, so my mom knew, but my mom was surprised too. But when I was going to get married, because we dated for 4 years, and my dad almost disowned me because he found out.
Right.
Yeah, because that was just dating. We dated for 4 years, and then I went back to Hong Kong after I graduated from university. I didn't tell him until a month before I was going to come to Canada to get married.
Oh my gosh,
So,
that was
yeah, so that was that. What was the dynamic in my family was about disapproval of a mixed race marriage. And I did get married, and the marriage survived for about 14 years, and 18 years relationship. And I have a son that's like 50, like half Chinese and half Caucasian. And I knew that's what his original concern was about. When you have children, it would be difficult for him, right? Well, my son is now 26. I raised him as a single mom, 4 years, like when he was 4 years old, in a very Caucasian community. Only a handful, like a Chinese family in this. But when you know the vision, what the type of life that you want to live in, nothing can stop you.
exactly.
I never see things as mistake. It's lessons that you learn from the past with every decision, and that's what brought me here today. Is I have a lot of like the two cultures and going through like educations and marriage, and having raised biracial kids and
Yes.
as a single mom. So life experience enrich your life, and now I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Okay, Denise has something to say. Go ahead, Denise.
Wow. The more I get to know about these ladies, the more I love them. I can definitely resonate with both Mary and Annie. Being a latchkey kid, that was me too. My parents worked all the time. As far as Annie, what she's talking about with having a mixed child, I am a mixed child. My mother's Filipino and my father's Italian. I was considered white passing, but I grew up not feeling like I belonged anywhere. I really, kids were cruel because I looked different, and they didn't know what a half Asian kid was in the early 80s. And, they would make fun of my nose. They would say, "Why do you look like this? Are you white? Are you black?" And I'd be like, I mean, I'm Asian. I don't know, like I didn't see color with people. And, it was sort of, I grew up feeling like I was a misfit, and which led me into doing what I'm doing today as a transformational coach, as a hypnotherapist, as a healer. And the thing is that even when I owned a yoga studio, I noticed that because I didn't want a cookie cutter yoga studio, I wasn't going to be like the next Yoga Works. I was like, I want this to be a place that people come and get their therapy. And so people were the misfits in my yoga studio. They were the people who wanted to come and heal. And it was a really, really beautiful community. And, I think just now, obviously, like I embrace both cultures, but when Black Lives Matter came up in 2020, man, my trauma surfaced in having to really look at my Italian family and being that white passing kid and noticing how subtle the racism was. And I went deep, and it was painful. I confronted my father. I mean, he and I didn't talk for months. And, having to go through all of that, That's why I think, when this book came about, I was so excited because it was like, oh my God, like, yes, there's finally a voice for this, right?
Yes, yes. And a lot, like you said, a lot of us Asians, I don't know, when you said that, it seems like everybody can relate to that. Like, we are kind of like a misfit. I was called kind of weird because I can see the other side, right? I can see energies, different dimensions. Well, who can see that? I thought everybody can see it, right? That's just my thought. I was attending like it's called an IMT class, integrative manual therapy. And I was just, how you're snacking in the back because the teacher was discussing something. And then they brought a person in the front and then they said, what do you see? I raised my hand. And of course, I just blurted out whatever I saw. Like, oh, the guy has a bone bruise across and then his brain has some concussion somewhere. Then I describe exactly in detail what's happening inside the body of this person. And then the teacher goes, absolutely correct. And then everybody looked at me and said, can you, how did you see that? I said, I don't know. It's so obvious. Can you not see it? In my head, it was normal. I was just being me. Human MRI, like I said, right? But everybody is like trying to learn the techniques so that they can see when I didn't know I had that thing. So you can see how all of us Asians here, we have something unique. And that's the point, right? We're all different. There's an intersection of the stories. And the more we embrace the uniqueness, actually, the more we stand out because we thought we're so creepy, unusual, crazy, but then everybody else has something to share. Does that make sense? So let's share what side of you is kind of unusual. Let's share that on TV. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Lisa, go ahead.
Unusual, I would say like ever since I was young, I kind of just did whatever it is that I wanted to do. Even though someone said, oh, you need to do this, or this is how you have to do things, I always had to figure out a way to not do what everyone else is doing. Because I know there's something else better out there.
Oh my God.
That was me. So, because it's like, why do I have to follow what everyone else is doing? Why do I have to follow what, like, my family is telling me, I'll watch TV or, I'll read something. And then they said, this is how you have to do things. And so for me, I was always the curious person trying to figure out, okay, there's, like, I'm not going to do that. Maybe I could do it the other way, or maybe I could do it this way.
You're the rebel.
So, yeah, well, I would say not, well, maybe, but it wasn't like I knew there was like something. I just had this feeling that we don't always have to follow what everyone else is saying, or if there's like a system that people are either like following or like I'm sure there's always a way to do it differently. And so that was me. There are times when even in school where people will be in groups or, it's lunch break or recess. And I would always just walk alone and explore. And I would just walk around the school just to look for something because, I just wanted to see, like, I just wanted to explore and see what else is out there. So that was me. But I think that was me because I was like an only child and I grew up with both my parents not there. And so I was like independent that way.
Ah, it served you well. It served you well.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I love, Vivian, how you talked about your gift of sight, because although you explained a really like supernatural kind of cosmically, divine version of it, I feel like there are times in our life where, especially as we start to get older and we can reflect back as an adult and observe ourselves as children in the situations where we take off rose-colored glasses and we get a gift of sight as well in a different sense. And I know that for myself, it was in that reflection because I went to a predominantly Caucasian school. And I couldn't have vocalized that for you when I was younger. But now looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, like that entire town we lived in, we were the minority. And when I think back to school, I very distinctly remember like the little boys singing. There was this little song they used to sing, and it would go Chinese, Japanese, and something about the knees. I can't remember the whole jingle, but they would do the eyes, and it would make me kind of pause because they're trying to make
Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, Negro.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to make fun of the eyes, and I said, well, technically, my eyes are actually bigger than theirs because I'm a mixed child like Denise's, so I actually got relatively large eyes, and so it didn't compute for me. So to me, there was nothing to be upset about. It was their silly song that didn't really resonate with me because I have kind of big eyes actually, and bigger than theirs in some cases. And then they would say things like, "Oh, do you know karate?" And at the time I was actually taking a karate class, and I was like, "Yeah, you want to see some moves?" But like all these things, because I'm missing it. I'm completely missing it. And I would say that was probably my quirk as a kid, is that these things that were coming in that could have been taken so negatively or been really traumatic, they didn't resonate with me. So there's something about that, like that ignorance was my gift at that time in my life, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, it's somehow better that way because then it doesn't bother you. Because I noticed with certain people, so many things trigger them, right? And that's the part that needed the healing. But if it doesn't really bother you, I mean, they can like exist and you just love them for who they are and accept them for who they are. Because we're all different, but at the same time, we're the same. We're all humans. So there's some similarities and differences, but that's what enriches our lives, are the differences. So, oh my gosh, this is fun.
Vivian, I'd like to add something to what Mary said. It's very interesting because I grew up in a very predominantly Asian community. So the high school I went to was about over 80% Asian. So I just want to say that, no matter where we grew up, what stories we lived through, many of the experiences we go through are the same, right? You get picked on, there's trauma, there's stories. It doesn't matter. These are all stories. It just depends on what you tell yourself, right? If you grew up in a white community, you experience these things growing up. And for me, I feel like I have a lot of stories, and I grew up in a predominantly Asian community. So now when I look at stories, they're just stories. But how we react and how we tell our stories next is going to determine our entire life experience. And I think that's what bossing up is all about, is how we think now, what kind of mindset transformations we decide to go through. It's all the inner work, and it goes across the board for all cultures of all humankind. And it's just so beautiful that no matter what, we're a collective in this universe. We're vibrating together. We're just rising together, and it doesn't matter where you've been, what you've been through. It's just a beautiful transformation. We're all going through different tunnels in life, and there are absolutely light at the end of the tunnel, and life is beautiful. And I think that's the kind of mindset we have to go into life with, and that's going to determine our life.
Oh, beautifully said. Thank you, Lucy. Oh my gosh, we can talk forever. I should have extended the show for 2 hours. But I think we're going to have another show at 2 o'clock with Tim, right? So I just want to share with the audience, they can get their ebook today. It is a #1 Amazon bestseller, both national and international. Congratulations, authors. So it's amazon.com/. There's a lot of numbers and letters. So go ahead and click that link, and we're going to put that on the Human MRI page as well. And all proceeds, who wants to share about this? I think Mary D has, you've been saying this is like a long,
saying so much.
Just share it.
Yes, the National Asian American Association of Professionals have a mental health initiative, and so all proceeds from our Amazon sales will go there. They're actually also being matched. So you can download it on Kindle. I think it's free if you have limited there. Otherwise, grab your book for $9.97. Know that that money was all going to a really, really great place. We are, as an Asian culture, we're actually one of the worst statistically for actually saying, you know, that hey, I need help when I'm not feeling right, and I'm struggling with my mindset. And so this is a great initiative. You guys will all join us in that, and of course enjoy these inspiring stories from all of my co-authors here. And it was good fun. Thank you for having us today, Vivian.
Thank you so much, everyone. So again, this is your ebook, and a lot of us authors actually ordered the physical book. So if you would like to get it through their links, please look for their links on Facebook. And ladies, you can definitely put it on my Human MRI page. They can definitely get the physical copy of the book, so they have it. Some people like just the physical touch, right? So if they want it, it's going to be available, I believe, sometime in March. But right now, the Kindle version is available on Amazon. And we want to thank you all who participated today. You ladies are lovely. We can talk all day over tea and Chinese food, Korean food, and other foods, Filipino food. And I want to invite everyone to also go to uplevel2021.com. That's going to be your ticket to up-leveling the newer version of you for 2021 so that you can live your life with ease, grace, and flow. Thank you, ladies, and have a wonderful afternoon. I'll see you again in the show later. All right, take care. Have fun.